Welcome to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, where we sit down with the people who give shape, texture, and voice to life on the North Fork of Long Island. Some are rooted here by generations, others arrive by chance or choice, but all carry with them a piece of the story. We talk about what's changing, what's worth holding on to, and the currents of history, both quiet and loud, that run through this place. I'm your host, Christopher Bianchi, and for episode 162, we sit down with Thomas Watkins, a Greenport native and former fire chief whose life has been dedicated to service and community. Thomas spent decades in the Greenport Fire Department, rising through the ranks to become the village's first black fire chief. He also devoted much of his career to working in nursing, always with a focus on helping others. In our conversation, Thomas reflects on his family's journey from Virginia to Greenport, the values his parents instilled in him, and what it was like growing up in the village. He shares memories from his school years, what drew him to public service, the lessons he's carried from his mother, and the moments he's proud of from his years in emergency response. We also talk about the spirit of Greenport, how it's changed, and what his hopes are for the future of the North Fork. So I hope you enjoy episode 162 with Thomas Watkins. This episode was recorded August 3rd, 2025. Thank you so much for coming on the Floyd Memorial Library podcast today. It's really great to have you on today.
Back home.
Yes. And so could you give us introduce yourself, where you were born and raised, give a little introduction?
Okay. My name is Thomas R. Watkins Sr., born and raised here in Greenport on Kaplan Avenue. Born right here at the hospital, Eastern Long Island, where I worked for over 30 years as a nurse.
And now just to go back a bit, can you share a little bit about your ancestry, how far back you can trace your ancestry?
Well, my grandmother on my mother's side was born in Richmond, Virginia, and they moved here when I believe she was 3, due to my grandmother was able to make more money in the North. Her mother was living in New Jersey, so she moved all her family up here to work, and she met my father, who lived in Riverhead at the time, and they got married and moved here in Greenport and lived and raised her family here.
Wow. And in terms of your father's side, how far back does his family go in Riverhead?
His mother is from the Shinnecock Reservation, and his father is from Riverhead also, really from Riverhead.
Okay. And in terms of your parents coming out here, what work were they doing out in Greenport?
My mother, she went to school. She graduated here, and she did domestic housework. And then she went to school to be a hairdresser.
Yes.
And then my father worked in the post office.
Okay.
He worked there until he retired.
Mm-hmm. And so your mom went to school through Greenport?
Yeah, she graduated from Greenport High School.
Mm-hmm. And would she talk about her time growing up in Greenport?
Well, I guess they had really no problems with segregation, because like coming from the South, everything was segregated.
Yes.
And then when you come here at the North, they had trying to learn the differences between black and white. There was the Ku Klux Klan, but they really didn't bother the blacks. It was mostly against the Catholic and the Jewish people. Mm-hmm. So it took a little time to really learn that.
Mm-hmm. And then did your mom eventually, later on, did she eventually get involved with the school board?
Oh, yes, she was one of the first black school board members here, and she did a lot of work with the black community.
And did she went to AME Zion Church?
Yes, she started there as Methodist, and then later on we switched over to Lutheran
Okay.
Church. We went to the church on Fifth Avenue, and as a matter of fact, we were there until they built the new church on the main road. And I was in one of the first. I was in the first confirmation class in the new church there, and I'm still a member of that church now, even though I live in Norfolk, Virginia.
Okay. And did you have any siblings as well?
Yes, 3 natural and 2 that I've. We don't in our family. We don't never call them adopted because the mother had a lot of foster kids.
Okay.
And there's an old saying, if you feed them, they're yours. So I have 2 daughters that I call my daughters,
Okay.
my natural daughters.
And to get to you, how was it for you growing up in Greenport as a child? What activities would you do outside?
Well, we had a very strict family. We didn't run wild. Sports, I did cross country in the fall and track in the summer. And when I had sports activities during the week, you went home, you did your homework, and then my father, and I guess I had his work ethics. He worked at the post office, and then after that, he would come home, have dinner, and he would go out and he either cleaned the bank or we had one of the first department stores, WT Grants, and I helped him clean that. And that's what we did. So I did during the week. On the weekends, after I did my chores, if I was lucky enough, I either went to AP White's bait shop, went fishing, or I went down to the roller skating rink.
And you were growing up in was it the 50s?
50s, yes.
50s. And was it pretty, or would you notice it's still like a working waterfront and
Oh, yes,
people
yes.
coming in, and they said you could smell the fish?
Yeah,
and-
the bunker boat fishermen come in.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And there were still a lot of stores, department stores, like you
Yeah.
said, and
We had Brandy's shoe store, and we had the ice cream parlors and the movies. And
you would go to the movies.
yes, 25 cents. And then you go across the street to Paradise Suites. And that was as long as you had all your chores done and everything was taken care of.
Was there Rouse's?
Yes, that was semi out of town,
Okay.
you know.
And the arcade, was the arcade
Yes,
there?
the arcade that was owned by the mayor.
Okay.
You had Matosha's
Matosh.
downtown. That was owned by the town supervisor.
Yeah.
That was also told that where the KKK hung out. You would never know it, but that was our stories that was told by me.
You would hear that.
Yes, but again, it never bothered the blacks there. I never knew anything about being prejudiced. Never saw any of that in my growing up.
What about your parents? Would they talk about that?
No.
No. And going through school, you went through the one building.
Yeah, Greenport.
The Greenport School. How
Kindergarten through,
high school.
yes. Never saw any of that. No.
How was your experience going through there? Did you have any role models or teachers that you enjoyed, or subject matter?
Well, I had a little difficult in school because didn't like English, didn't like math. So every year I was in summer school. But one good thing is I got my career out of there because in my senior year I was able to go to a trade school called BOCES, and that's where I got my nursing degree. Although 2 months into it, I didn't like it and I quit. But my mother, with her hard hand, took me back up there and said I was staying there. And I just retired after 55 years and 9 months of nursing.
And coming out of high school, did you really know what you wanted to do at that time, or you were still uncertain that you wanted to go into nursing? Or
Well, I completed my nursing. I graduated in August, and then I moved up with my grandmother in Riverhead, and I worked there at the hospital until I went into the Navy. And then I did my 2 years there, and then I did another year in work in the hospital, and then I called my dark ages. I had 9 years of that where I got into nursing and did a lot of odd jobs and got into a lot of bad, unhealthy, got into drugs and alcohol and did a lot of odd jobs. And it wasn't until the 80s when my mother grabbed me by the coattail and says, "Tom, you need to get your life together." And she got me into an EMT class, and I joined the fire department, got my nursing license back, and took off from there.
but at that point, you were living in Riverhead.
Yes, living in
Okay.
Riverhead, but then I started living in up the island and in the city and in New Jersey, and I was living all over the place.
But even for people graduating from high school, did you feel like you wanted to get out of Greenport at that time?
Yeah, well, I wanted to, just find out what the world was all about. I spent 2 years in the Navy, but even there, I was stuck in Florida for the 2 years, and I was a little upset because I wanted to join the Navy to see the world, and from boot camp, and in 2 years, I was in Florida. So I really didn't get any satisfaction out of that.
And what was because you were staying with your grandmother, what did she do for a living?
Well, she was a housekeeper. She had been
Okay.
retired, yeah.
Okay. And moving through that time, when did you eventually make your way back to Greenport?
I guess after I had did my little route, I had came back and I met my children's mother, and I said I'd move back here, and even then I was still doing odd jobs and doing a lot of unhealthy things, and moved in with my parents, moved out of their house and living in boarding houses, and that's sort of my mother's said I need to do something with my life, and that's how I changed everything around and got to be what I am today.
And was that in the 80s?
Yes, beginning of I moved back here in 79,
79.
78, 79, 78.
And what did you think? I mean, you probably came out to visit your parents, but Greenport had changed even from like the 50s and 60s and towards the late 70s. It was going through I think people might say somewhat of a decline and some stores closing. And what did you think of Greenport at that time?
Actually, I wasn't paying too much attention about what Greenport was doing because I was more or less trying to find out what Tom was doing. Trying to find out what I wanted to do with myself, because even then I still hadn't figured out what I wanted to do with my life. Like it
Yes.
says, those 9 years I called my dark ages because I
Yes.
was still trying to figure out, because growing up I was really kept into a shell, and I never got able to, because I can remember on the bus going to nursing school, and there was these two students from Mattatuck. One's father was the sergeant of South Old Town Police, and the other father was a lieutenant. And they were in the back of the bus, and they were talking about smoking weed. And I was saying to myself, who would want to go outside and grab weed off the ground and smoke it. I had no idea what they were talking about. That's just how, in a shell, my parents kept us, you know.
But at the same time, that I think do you think that was good still for growing up with your parents raising you like that? But at the same time, you said it was like you needed to kind of spread your wings and kind of see what the world was like at the same time, I guess.
Yeah, because, I kind of feel like I was missing a lot, but it's the way the kids are brought up today. It's way too fast of a pace,
Yes.
There
Yes.
needs to be some moderation, Maybe it was good the way my parents brought me up, but sometimes you need to get a little.
Some experience.
Yes.
Yeah. And did you start working for the Eastern Long Island Hospital?
I started working for them actually when I was in school in,
Oh, okay.
let me see, 67. I started
67.
there as an orderly. I started there working there for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then in my senior year, which was 68, I don't know what made me sign into the nursing program, but I did.
Mm-hmm. But then into the late 70s, were you working there into the 80s?
No,
No.
like I said, I started in 67.
Oh, okay.
68, went to the LPM program. 69, I graduated. And then I guess I was a little upset because when I went into the Navy in 70, I put in for the corpsmanship. And then back in 70 was a part of the Vietnam War. They put you wherever they wanted to put you, and they didn't put me nowhere in the medical field. I ended up being a bosun's mate, and I was stuck in that field for 2 years.
In Florida?
Yes. When I got out, I went back to nursing. Matter of fact, I lived in Riverhead, and instead of going back to Greenport, I worked up at Glen Cove Hospital. I did that for a year with private duty, and I said, you know what, I just got tired of it, and I just quit nursing.
But coming back to Greenport, when did the idea come about to get involved with the fire department?
Well, I got my EMT in 83. I started working for a private ambulance company in Jamesport, Bucolic Ambulance. And then I was working down at Claudio's fishing dock, and a lady that's Kathy Bumble, who knew my family. Everybody knew the Watkins through my father being a mailman and my mother working in the community. And she said, Tom, there's an advanced EMT course over in Shelter Island. So I said, all right. So I got on the ferry. She told me what the date was. And I got on and went to class. And she says, the instructor said something about you have to be in the fire department. You have to be on doing ambulance calls. And I says, ooh, well, I'm not in the fire department. And it happened to be a lot of people that was in that course I knew personally, or they knew my family. So a lot of guys says, well, you can join Greenport. So I had a lot of different chances to join different departments, and I ended up joining Phoenix Hook and Ladder because one of the guys that was in that company I graduated with. And that's why I ended up joining Greenport.
And how was that experience getting involved in there and being the only black firefighter in the group?
Well, I found out that I wasn't the first black fireman that joined Greenport.
Okay.
There was one, Howard, who had joined back in the 50s, but he wasn't there very long. I found out through hearing from people that there were a lot of blacks that didn't really care for me being in there because they thought I was with the KKK, and this is in the 80s.
Oh.
You know, why am I in there with that group? But it was funny, whenever the siren sounded for rescue, where was Tom Watkins at? Because in the EMT class, I graduated with a 90 average, and I was never heard of going from an EMT class and going the next month into an advanced class. That was never heard of, because it's very difficult. But I was able to use my nursing knowledge to do that. And I was one of the top in my class, the advanced class.
And were there a lot of calls at that time even, or just EMT calls? Because people would talk about today, we have had more calls with Peconic Landing, but at that time in the 80s, I don't know if you can talk about not the specific type of calls, but what you were working on.
Well, as far as advanced, Greenport was the only department that had the advanced training. The closest other department was Riverhead. So when departments that need patients with advanced care, they always call Greenport. And then the second, the closest department was Mattatuck. At that time, Southold and Cutchogue didn't even transport patients. That company I'm telling you about, Peconic Ambulance, which I worked for, we would transport patients. And actually, I would be on the duty crews. I would have an ambulance at my house. And when Southold or Cutchogue would get a rescue, I would take the ambulance to that. They would treat, and then I would go there and transport. East Murray and Orient, they had EMTs, but Greenport was the only department who had the EMTs with the advanced care.
Okay. So you would have to cover Southold, Cutchogue.
Yes.
Mattatuck.
East Murray and Orient with advanced care.
Yes. And also, what did it mean for you to become one of Long Island's first black fire chiefs?
Well, that actually is not a true statement, because even in the 70s, I found there were other departments that were totally black.
Okay.
Like I lived up in Middle Island. There was a department called Gordon Heights, which is totally black. North Amityville, which is on the far western end of Suffolk County, they were 90% black fire department. Hempstead, which is in Nassau County, they are a totally black fire department. What I can say is I was the first black in eastern Suffolk.
Okay.
Of eastern Long Island.
Yes.
Yes.
And then the first black fire chief for Greenport.
Greenport, yes.
But what did that mean for you?
Actually, growing up, it never like went to me. It was good. It never like took no big fanfare of it, I appreciate it. I did a lot of firsts for Greenport Fire Department. I got the first female in the department, which was also African American. In my company, I got the first female officer in my hook and ladder. I also got another African American in my company. All right, so I've done a lot, but growing up, we was always taught that this is something that you do.
I'm curious. What did your mom or dad say about that? Or they were like, "Oh, that's good that you got that opportunity," or was it?
My mother, we were always in the community, and it's something that you do for the good of the community. You never look for the pat on the back. You get it. You never look for the grandiose.
Yes.
It's something that you get it, you take it, but you never look for. Yeah, look
Yes.
for it. It's just something that it's just something that you get it. You're thankful for it, but a lot of people look for the stars, the stripes, and the fireworks. But we were just brought up like you do it for the good of mankind, the good of service for my mother. Like she's first of a lot of things in our community, but you just do it for the good of mankind.
Yes. But could you even mention some of the things I think we talked about in terms of your mother, but even other things that she's done in the community?
Oh my goodness.
A lot.
Oh, well, she's just, she's been with the Girl Scouts and she's a fundraiser. And as a matter of fact, if you look, the library has done I don't know if you call it a podcast, but there's, the library has done something similar to what you're doing with me.
Oh, really?
Yes. As a matter of fact, my sister brought it up.
Okay.
So, but I've done. I've been as far as things with the fire department. I've been the president of. Matter of fact, as soon as when I got out of this being chief, I became president of Southold Town Fire Chiefs Association, which takes over all the fire departments in Southold Town, Shelter Island Town, and Plum Island, which is government. I've been president of the Norfolk Volunteer Ambulance Association, which oversees all the ambulance companies of all the fire departments in Southold Town, Shelter Island, and Riverhead Town Volunteer Ambulance. I've been president of the Norfolk Fire Police Association, which is the fire police of Southold Town. And I've also been a member of Suffolk County Fire Chiefs Association, which is all the fire departments in Suffolk County. So,
And how long were you fire chief in Greenport?
I told her 6 years.
6 years.
And even with that there, I had to run three times for that.
Okay. And how long did you stay in the fire department after that?
I've been a total of 34 years.
34 years, wow. And over that time, you mentioned hiring and bringing in new people, but were there any major emergencies at that time when you were fire chief that that stick with you, that you had to be called to? I don't know if you can talk in detail about it, but just in general.
Well, I've delivered a couple of babies. But none in particular because, you get an emergency, you respond, and nothing offhand, like I said, nothing that really sticks out because usually when I go to emergency, I've always taught myself I get tunnel vision. I just look at what I have to do, and I've learned I do what I have to do and I keep it there. Working at the hospital, working at the village, working at the fire department, I leave those things there. I don't take the hospital to the village. I don't take the fire department to the hospital. I just leave those there,
Yes.
And especially with the medical aspect, I had to learn because there's certain things that on the ambulance I couldn't do at the hospital. And certain things at the hospital I couldn't do at the ambulance. So I had to really know how to tread things, where my boundaries were at.
But you continued to work at the hospital after into the 90s and 2000s.
I retired from the hospital in 2016, and then I moved to Virginia.
Okay.
And then from there, I went to work. I worked actually 6 years, 8 years doing nursing in Virginia.
Okay. But if you could talk about just the time from 90s to 2016, Greenport changed a lot. What did you think of the community and how it's evolved over time? Mitchell's Park and a lot of influx of new people coming in, and then people moving away.
Well, being that I've seen a difference since I've left,
Mm-hmm.
'cause I've been going since, 8 years, 9 years. And, I've come back for different events, most with the fire department, because I'm still very close with the fire department. As a matter of fact, I'm in town now for a fire department event, and then I was here in May for a fire department event. And I've seen or talked to people, and they've told me how it seems like the city people have come in and really have taken over. Things are the same. Like one of the things now is the siren. Like when I was growing up, when the siren went off, you had to be home. That was the dinner bell. You had to be home for dinner.
That was like the 6 o'clock whistle.
Yes, 6 o'clock whistle. You had to be home, sitting at the dinner table. When the 6 o'clock whistle went off, you had to be home. If the 6 o'clock whistle caught you out in the street, you were in trouble. And how they're saying that they want to get rid of that now. We used to have the poll boxes for the fire department. They've gotten rid of that. And everything has gotten so expensive. They say now, if you don't own a piece of property in Greenport, you can't afford to buy a piece of property in Greenport. Everything seems to be tailored to the out-of-towners coming in and buying up everything. It's no more for the people who live here. I've heard that, they don't even take, the stores now won't even take food stamps. Everything is for the out-of-towners.
Yes.
It's no more for the Greenporters, those who lived here all their life.
But do you still meet and see a lot of locals that are still here? But there's not as many, say, back in the 2000s.
No, I would walk through town and very few people.
It feels different.
Yeah. I mean, none of the stores that I know are even still here.
Yes. And then could you even say what brought you to, well, you mentioned working in Virginia, but why you decided to go to Virginia in 2006?
Well, my family, my kids.
Okay.
My daughter, her and her mother moved to Virginia in the 80s. And I stayed here because I was with the fire department. And I have my sons here, so I raised them here. Her and her daughter moved to Virginia. And then when I was getting ready to retire, I said I wanted to move. My middle son and older son, my middle son was in the service, and he had built a home there. So when I get ready to retire, I said I want to move there with them. So that's what brought me to Virginia.
Just going back, does it feel like you did a full circle from where your mom's family, in terms of they were in the Richmond area?
Yes.
But you're in the Norfolk, Virginia area. But how does that feel even going back?
Well, I really never thought about it like that because they started in Richmond, and I'm not a little over an hour and a half from Richmond. Never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
That's where they started out, in Richmond, in Virginia.
And you would have visited down there even as a child growing up? Would you go back and visit family there?
Well, no, because most of
them had already...
had moved up here,
okay.
yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. But also, I think you touched on it a bit, but just looking at your mother and your father and what you've done, what lessons did you learn from them and that stayed with you through your career?
Well, my mother, who was very religious, her mom was always, her motto was always treat people the way you want people to treat you. She was always into donating, being with the community, which I guess the fire department is the same way. Always giving, not looking for anything, to get back,
Mm-hmm.
and every time I come up here, it's usually through the fire department, and I think 34 years that I spent here with the fire department, I think that had a lot to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still active with my church, St. Peter's. Every time I come up here, I do go to church,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm still considered a member there, and I do see my family when I come here,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yes.
So my family, was a little bit that's still here, that's still alive, I see them, my cousins,
Mm-hmm.
friends. Matter of fact, at the outing I went to yesterday, I saw a couple of my friends in the fire department. you
Yes.
know, but
Yeah.
my family, my mother especially, she was always say, be charitable and just, and I still instilled those into my kids.
Mm-hmm.
My father was always very orderly, tools and things like that. When you're working, because I own my own snow removal business, and I used to teach my sons, time is money. When you do something, do it right the first time. And my youngest son, who's a foreman at a welding company, he says, Dad, I teach my guys the same thing. Put things back where you found them. Do things right the first time. So you don't have to go back. When you go back the second time, you're wasting time. And he says, I still remember those things that you taught us. And I says, it's funny. Teach your mind. My oldest son, he teaches his sons the same thing. He says, I thought you were just yelling at me. He said, but now I realized that you were just teaching us. I said, yeah, well, hey, Pop was touching me the same thing. I thought he was hollering at me, but then I realized it's just, it's just
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. You kind of learn that later on, what your parents were doing
Mm-hmm.
at that time. And then also, you mentioned how Greenport has changed, but what would you hope for the future of the Greenport community or the North Fork and its community down the line? Obviously, people talk about different issues, like you said, with housing and in terms of it moving forward. What would you hope to see?
Well, I just hope that just don't forget the people who made Greenport and the Norfolk the way it is, because it was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. We worked hard to really, because the Norfolk it's a special place,
Mm-hmm.
and I think a lot of people, we take it for granted because we lived here, we worked here, and we cherish this little pearl of a gem of us out here. We've seen it over the years how everybody from the city comes out here and they like it, but then they want to change it to their way. We like what we have here.
Yes.
We like it here. We love it here.
Yes.
You know,
Definitely.
and just don't want to see it change to.
Or even even people say just look at towards the South Fork and what the Hamptons,
Yes,
and you
yeah.
could easily see that coming up here more so.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, I've seen some improvements like the
mhm.
roads. I was over by my cousin's house yesterday, and I've seen how they've paved all the roads over by the Bayside. I says, "Oh my goodness," because they were. I said, "Greenport's coming up."
Yes,
But
but
I remember they used to be just oil and sand.
mhm.
So Greenport is changing. I like it. you know.
Yeah. But I think, like you said, it's important to recognize the history here
Yes.
and the people that have been here before, and try to balance that where you don't try to bring everything that you have,
Yeah.
whether it was
I
in the
mean,
city.
yes, there is modernization,
Yes.
but just don't kill what was, you
What
know.
makes it special here?
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Hmm. Were there any other things you'd like to touch on or discuss that we haven't talked about?
Not that I could think of, but I appreciate you calling me in. I think it was something special. I
Yes.
hadn't expected it, and, you know, I appreciate you picking me, of all people.
No, definitely.
I don't think I'm anybody special. You know, people say, you know, Tom, you're this, you're that, but I'm just a part of this great village here.
Hmm.
People said I've done a lot. I probably have, but again, I don't think of, I don't. It's just being part of a Greenporter.
Yes,
You know.
definitely. No, I think it's good to be recognized and everything, but it's like that's kind of just that's the way you are in terms of being part of a community, and you have done a lot for the village of Greenport and showing other people they can do things in the community. And just looking back on your career, you said you had like a low time and then coming back up, and what you can do with your life and the outcome in the end.
Yeah, because I worked. I tell people about my occupation. I mean, I worked. Well, I did 34 years in the fire department. I did 28 years at the hospital,
Hmm.
and then I did 25 years at the village, all at the same time.
That's
You
a
know,
lot.
and then my snow removal business for 25 years, and teaching CPR and
Hmm.
first aid.
Hmm.
You know,
I mean, you kept busy all that time. What about? I'm just thinking, even now, what kind of things do you have? Any things you enjoy doing with more free time you have now?
well, actually, when I moved from here, I went down to Virginia. I still stayed
You
busy.
still
I mean,
stay.
I got my Virginia EMT down there. I went to college. I got my National Registered EMT, which means I could practice anywhere in the United States to be an EMT. And I did 6 years working at the Portsmouth City Jail as a nurse, and then a year and 2 months working at Western Tidewater Regional Jail, and that's a jail that houses federal inmates that are waiting to go to big trials and stuff like that. And I did that for a year and a half until I decided that after 55 years and 9 months, I think I need to retire.
Hmm.
So I've just quit working.
Yes. You did a lot. It's really a lot. But oh, there was one other thing with your time in the fire department. You mentioned bringing in new people, but people that are involved in the fire department today talk about that it can be hard to attract new people in the community to get involved with the fire department. But that wasn't a challenge when you were fire chief.
Oh, well, one of the problems with the fire department, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of dedication. And my my thing was that, especially when I became chief, was that I didn't want to tell somebody to do something that I didn't do myself.
Hmm.
So I purposely let myself go to a lot of schooling, a lot of hands-on. I always went to seminars, always went to hands-on training, and taught myself what needs to be done. And right now, a lot of people, they have families. I only have my two sons, and I was luckily to have my parents around to watch my kids while I went away to school, for training and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, my son also was active in the fire department. All three of my boys, all three of my boys were members of the Greenport Fire Department.
Wow.
From juniors
Yeah.
to be actually regular firemen.
Hmm.
So I was lucky to be, lucky to have that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot of dedication. It's a lot of work. And, for young people coming up today, they're working 2 jobs, 3 jobs. They got families. And it's a lot of dedication. It's a lot of work into it. So it's not as easy as it was back in my days. And plus, I said, you need the family support.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Definitely need that.
Yes. No, but I want to thank you so much for
Oh, thank you.
taking the time to come on the podcast today and share your story. It was a real pleasure to have you on today.
Oh, well, thank you for inviting me. I'm glad I was able to be here in Greenport today.
Yes.
You know?
Definitely better to do it in person.
Yes, yes.
Well, I hope you enjoyed episode 162 with Thomas Watkins. I want to thank you for listening to the Floyd Memorial Library podcast, and we'll see you next time.